Well, from post to super wars, and John Abernethy is the chair of Clime Asset Management and has had more than 35 years in the investment markets. But he's white hot at what he calls the hypocrisy of the government for not tackling the generous superannuation arrangements of politicians and public servants. I caught up with him earlier.
I've been following the Future Fund for quite a while, and it was set up when about 15, 16 years ago. And at the time, I questioned whether the assumptions surrounding it were legitimate. And as time has transpired, we've found out the actuarial assessment of what was needed in that fund was totally underestimated, and probably continues to be underestimated because the defined benefits payments to ex-public servants, politicians, High Court judges, defence personnel in the Commonwealth are much larger than the public realises. And they're large and they're indexed. And so they get a compounding effect. And the benefits are unique to that part of the community. And the rest of the community can't get that sort of benefit. Defined benefits were virtually outlawed 30 years ago. Defined benefits sent the Victorian government broke in the 80s and led to the privatisation of electricity. 30, 40 years later, we have this mess in electricity. So, you know, when you set up these schemes and you continue them, underfunded, they create enormous problems. And apart from that, there's a huge unfairness because benefits in one part of the community can't be gotten by other parts of the community. One part of the community hasn't really contributed to their benefits. Another part of the community is excessively contributing to their benefits and will never catch up.
So what we're talking about here is the fact that the government is now saying if you've got more than $3 million in a superannuation fund, any income on earnings beyond that is 30% now. And what they're not tackling, at least up until now, is the public servants, the judges and the politicians. And those people on those defined benefits super payments, in many cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, not only are they indexed so they keep rising every year, but on top of that, they're not touched by any of these tests that limit ordinary people in our community. Yeah,
well, they may not be touched. You know, the Treasurer has hinted that he wants to bring defined benefits into the scope of the changes, but it's very hard to define how that would occur. We've got to be careful here because there's about 3 or 4 schemes running inside the Future Fund and defined benefit schemes of the Commonwealth. Leave aside the states, which is another black hole, which no one wants to talk about. So the problem is immense. I want to carve out the defence personnel. I think they're entitled to benefits from the community because they put their life on the line and they went overseas to defend us and protect our freedoms. Absolutely, we should protect them. But I'm sorry, mainstream politicians and judges and alike, I think that they were well paid in their job. I think the benefits which they've given themselves in the main, which is something is a little bit strange about that, they're giving themselves a benefit. They didn't go to the people when they gave themselves these benefits and said, look, sign off on this. They just did it. They've kept it an amazing secret away from the public for too long. And now it's coming out through various news sources, I guess including this. And it's quite clear that there's probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who are ex-public servants who are getting a very fair or overly fair benefit, which the rest of the population can't get. Now, the cost of that is immense. Now, the latest budget from last year said that the Future Fund had well over $200 billion in it, but it was likely to be still underfunded by 2027 when it had something approaching $300 billion in it. Since the setup of the Future Fund, it hasn't paid one pension to the beneficiaries. All the pensions being paid and the lump sums being paid have come out of consolidated revenue, which is the tax paid by the general population. So we're paying the pensions which weren't funded still through the tax system. And it's amazing that this year we're probably going to have a near balanced budget, having paid out probably $9 billion in defined benefit payments this financial year.
So when you hear the Treasurer saying that really this is all about trying to get some equity inside the current superannuation system, that there's 80,000 that may now have more than $3 million in their super balances. The issue with there is there genuine equity when it comes to these public servants, to the judges, to the politicians?
Well, no, the numbers are clear. He's going to raise maybe $2 billion and we've got a $9 billion per annum payout under the defined benefit scheme. So the numbers don't add up. I think he's targeting a certain sector of the economy, of the community, because they're easy targets. They're the people who
and largely in self-managed superannuation funds as well.
Probably substantially in self-managed. But I must say at this stage, looking at what he's proposed, I actually don't think it's going to happen because it's too complicated. You've got a pension going up to 1.9 million in assets, so that's the tax-free in pension. Above that, you go into a 15% accumulation, and up to above $3 million, you go into a 30% tax bracket, all taxed on income. So how's that going to be worked out? There's going to be a tax nightmare. Then he says, I'm going to put the similar sort of test if I can work it out across the defined benefit schemes. Well, I can tell you, you can't work it out.
Yeah.
You can't work it out.